Welcome to the Equity Team Podcast, where we provide Sedona, Arizona real estate insight to help you thrive during your next real estate transaction.
Welcome back, investors. I'm Chad McMahon. This is Marton de Bocay. We are short-term rental and investment specialized real estate agents in the Sedona area. Welcome, Marton.
Hello, nice to see you, Chad.
Yeah, and we're going to be dialing in on what occupancy rates are we seeing in this area? How does it compare to outside of our sphere in this area? How does it compare to national averages? What are we seeing with our clients? We work with a lot of short-term rental clients, and we do a lot of short-term rental transactions, anywhere from 300,000 to multi-millions, and a lot of Sedona and a lot of Cottonwoods. So this is going to be kind of a fast-paced discussion about exactly what we're seeing and what are our clients, what are they saying, what's the feedback, what's their experience, all of that good stuff. So what I'd love to do is just start with some data that I found. And basically what it is it's Airbnb occupancy, national occupancy data. It's also, since we are in Arizona, we're going to be focused on Arizona. We're not going to focus out of the state. So the national average for occupancy rate right now is 58%. Now, it was quite a bit worse last year. Last year it was about 10% lower than that, which is crazy. I can't imagine even being at 58%, let alone 48%.
Yeah.
But right now, approximately national average for that occupancy rate is 58%. And Airbnb considers 68% right now to be good. It's not much of a moneymaker in my book, but they consider 68% to be good. Now, Phoenix, the average occupancy rate right now is 67%. So that would fall right around what they would consider to be good. And that's actually better than I thought it would be for an average, because I hear a lot of moaning and groaning from investors that are buying in the Phoenix area. It's so saturated, that they're just not happy with the performance. Now, I found this really interesting. Sedona, the average is 74%. So it's actually a little higher than I expected in terms of just the average. And of course, you're going to have, as everyone out there knows, averages, you got your above and belows. So the belows are going to be typically buyers that are buying directly through listing agents, or they're doing for sale by owner, or they're using real estate agents that are not specialized in short-term rentals or investment, or both.
It's good to have a team around you, not just, your property manager or, your handyman or, whoever is going to take care of the communication and the cleaning. But it's also, if you're entering a market in which you don't live and that you don't know much, it's good to be working with experts in the market that own short-term rental themselves and know what works and what doesn't. And, working with an agent that's specialized in short-term rental to buy the right property can make or break the deal. And for a buyer, it's not like you're not paying that buyer broker commission anyway. So as a buyer, it doesn't really make a difference to you financially from the moment of your transaction, whether or not you're using an agent that actually knows what they're talking about. But in the long run, it's going to make a huge difference. So I think everyone who really wants to become an investor or is already an investor and is trying to expand in a new market has to seek out the ones that are knowledgeable in that market to make sure that at the time of their purchase, they're the most educated that they can about their product that they're trying to bring on the market.
Yeah, agreed. And Marton, you and I are both investors. We both own real estate, and we both work with investors, primarily 99% of, who we work with, they're investors. And from my experience, investors tend to be, for the most part, really thoughtful, really intelligent, ambitious people. And they're just trying to find a way to not only do the right thing and make money at the same time and hopefully have fun in the process. And it's amazing how common it is when you and I, when we're talking with investors and maybe they're not experienced with short-term rentals and what they think a good property will be, a lot of times it doesn't line up with what the best properties really are, you know, in terms of which ones are going to give those best returns. And that kind of piggybacks on what you were saying before.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely have the properties, you know, that would be amazing primary residences, right? And then you have the properties that would be amazing short-term rentals. And
Yeah.
more often than not, these are not the same properties.
Yeah.
A lot of the properties that are great for short-term rentals, they may not be ideal for living there full time. And a lot of the properties that are perfect for living there full time, they may not do well as a short-term rental. So there's a real difference between what you're targeting in the market, and that's where, you know, an expert comes in and is able to weigh in on the options.
You know, I have a lot of local Sedona and Cottonwood and even Flagstaff, sometimes Phoenix, real estate agents, even seasoned ones that are really, really good at what they do. And they call me because they know I do a lot of short-term rentals. You know, maybe they were watching one of these recordings, or, you know, they heard about me from another client, or they see me selling a property, or, you know, I'm part of purchasing a bunch of properties that they're selling, or whatever it may be. And they reach out and they're like, so, you know, Chad, what are you and what's your team? What are you guys getting for occupancy rates for short-term rentals? And they're usually surprised to hear that it's quite a bit higher, you know, than the averages. Obviously higher than the national average. I mean, that you can't hardly make money with that, but even the local average is 74%, which isn't bad. 74% is not bad. But you know, we're typically seeing an average that's above 80%. We're seeing something around 83 to 86% on our local averages for occupancy rates, for, of course, our clients that follow our advice and, you know, get the leveraged remodels if they're needed. You know, furnish, you know, adding maybe a few features if they're not in there, like a hot tub and a game room, you know, things like that. Maybe give it a paint job if it's looking kind of deflated and, you know, a little bit sad, or whatever it may be, or a little bit, you know, colored gravel in the landscaping, or whatever it is that, you know, we advise. And if they're following that advice, of course, we always stick with whatever budget works for them, then they're seeing really high occupancy rates. So what's your feeling, Martin, as far as, you know, aside from what we've already said, what kind of differentiates these clients, these short-term rental owners, from having this higher level of success? Let's take us out of it for a second.
Yeah.
So what do you see?
You know what's really interesting, and this is something that I love working on, is, you know, the actual listing for your short-term rental, right? So it's going to be your photographs, it's going to be, you know, the storytelling, it's going to be the list of amenities that you have. So just like any product launch in any area that you were in, any industry that you would launch, you have to know your audience and you have to cater to that audience. And for example, this is a prime example of a couple of my clients' experiences, and literally just everything just unfolded in the past few months, where you know, I had made my recommendations about what they should have done, and you know, they went with what they thought they should do, and they didn't do necessarily so well. They did okay, but not so well. And you know, I have a tendency of going back in, you know, in the Airbnb listings for all of my clients on a regular basis, and checking the calendars and looking at how they're doing and how they're booked out, and talking with them and seeing if there's anything that we can improve. And a couple of my clients, I noticed their photos were good, but they were not excellent. Yeah. And I said, you know what? Let me book my favorite photographer and send it over. You know, that I'll do this for you, and we'll have a fresh new set of pictures. Well, guess what? Once they updated their photos with excellent photos, now all of a sudden I'm seeing their calendar booked in the same month that the previous year they weren't booked. Even though, you know, we're hearing, oh, there's more inventory, there's more competition, it's harder to differentiate yourself. Yes, but if you do all the things right, you will differentiate yourself. Yeah. Right. And we're in a world where visual is so important. So when you're scrolling through Airbnb for your options for booking your stay, the ones that are gonna grab your attention are the ones that are gonna pop on your screen. So you're gonna need really great interior design. You're gonna need, you know, all the updatings, cosmetic updatings that you were mentioning, Chad. Because for the most part, when people are booking a stay somewhere, they want to get out of their little routine, and they want to have fun. They want to go away for the weekend. They want to go away for the week. They want to feel refreshed. They want to be in a different environment. So they want to be cozy. They want to be in a place that feels like nice, like, oh, they're almost treating themselves, right? They're treating themselves to a little trip. So they're going to book something that looks nice, and the photography, the storytelling, and the little and extra little things that you can do in your property will go a very, very long way. It will be the difference between being an average Airbnb with 74% occupancy or a great Airbnb with 90% occupancy.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's spot on and very well said. And of course, like just the example of photography, that's one of several hundred things that you've got to do right if you want to perform well. But it's really, really important because, those photos obviously paint quite the picture, and way more powerful than, although the verbiage is incredibly critical, in terms of the marketing verbiage in an Airbnb and VRBO listing and on and on and on. But having those spectacular photos, you're right. I mean, it's amazing the impact that has. And something that I don't see, that often in a lot of these short-term rental, notice I don't call them Airbnb listings, that drives me crazy, but short-term rental listings is having twilight photos, is having aerial drone photos, potentially. And I know that you recommended this for one of your clients, and this really dialed it in, and you were just talking about it, but it wasn't quite this specific, having starry night photos, even sometimes that's the way to go. So it depends on the property. If you have a home that will photograph well with a certain style, then you need to do it. And those twilight photos, they're so critical. It's amazing how often that's skipped. And usually those are going to be your best default photos for something, whether you're renting something or whether you're selling it.
Yeah.
And certainly when we sell properties, I mean, our listings really, really pop because we bring in the best photographers, and they cost more, but they're worth it. We pay extra for all of these other styles of photography. And then we really go through, and we make sure that we're picking only the best, that we're not doing as many of the redundant photos, that it tells a story as you go through the photos. I mean, there are all these things just with photos alone. I could talk for an hour about photos and how to position the photos and how to do it properly so that it's most effective. But yeah, with our clients, they're either getting help from our go-to property manager, or they're self-managing and we're guiding them. But no matter what, we're guiding them, we're helping them with all these things. And, I think my best advice for someone that's self-managing for the first time, because there are a lot of people that are thinking to themselves, gosh, why can't I just self-manage? And they absolutely can. They can self-manage. They don't need to hire someone. And we can give some guidance, to those people that want to self-manage. We can give them great cleaners. We have these, we have a short list of really, really good resources, really good cleaners, really amazing local contractors. Finally, it's very, very challenging to find really, really fair, reliable, general contractors that do remodel, that do a great job.
And we try them ourselves. And we actually hire them ourselves to vet them first to make sure that they're actually reliable.
Yeah, we vet them on our own properties first, and then we give them to the clients. I'm glad you said that. That's a really good point. And so, and then of course, real estate attorneys and photographers and on and on and on and on. So we've got these great people that we really depend upon, and our clients really depend upon. So we can help put all the pieces together for those that want to self-manage. And if you want to hire a property manager, well, then of course it's even easier. A lot of people, the most common question I get is, what does it cost to have a short-term rental property manager? If you go with the major companies, it costs more, typically 25, 30% of your gross monthly. Our local expert, who is so good, she charges less. So typically she charges around 20%. And the performance that I see time and time again is way above and beyond.
Significantly better.
Really high occupancy rates, higher average. I mean, the ADR, the average daily rate, is higher. So our clients just make a ton more money.
Yeah.
But yeah, for self-managing, of course, we'll just really nurture and massage and support and, help those clients kick butt
Yeah.
as well.
One thing I'd like to add to that is there's nothing wrong with self-managing. In our experience, we found that generally speaking, your property will do better if it's managed by an expert at what they do, right? It's their full-time job to manage short-term rental properties in this very specific niche market of Sedona. So because that's what they do as a full-time job, they're solely entirely focused to making sure their systems run. They're constantly trying what works, what doesn't, and they try this on 20 or 30 different properties at the same time. So their capacity for generating data is so much better than just you doing it by yourself on this one property. But the other thing I wanted to say is, more often than not, because you're making more money as a property manager, you will make almost all your money back. A lot of your money back, if not all of your money back, from this 20% or 25% that they're going to charge, because they're doing a better job. So it's almost a wash to have a property manager taking care of your property, but at the same time, you're also not spending your own time into making sure that everything's running right? And that has a cost, right? Whether you're a full-time job, working as a W-2 employee, and then you also have, a separate screen to manage your property, or you have the notifications on your phone all the time and you're distracted at work, or you're only trying to improve it at night after you're done with work. That's going to take up a lot of your time in your primary industry. And so you have to weigh in, okay, if I do this myself and I save this 20-25%, how much is it actually going to cost me in terms of time? Time equals money. So potentially I could manage myself. I choose not to. I choose not to. I'm a great realtor. I love my job as a realtor, and I want to focus my time to my clients as a realtor. I have my properties, they do well, and they're managed by my property manager. So I don't have to deal with it. And I know that they're doing a good job, and I know that I probably will not do something just as good. And even if that ends up costing me 5 or 10% a month, I also have all that time back that I can put into my own business. So, just focusing on what you do best, I guess it really is the key. And that's just business 101.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. It's hard sometimes, sometimes we step over dollars as we're picking up pennies kind of thing. If you're wanting to save a buck, save a penny with everything you can, or earn the extra dollar every single way you can, but then you expand your own net of what you're trying to accomplish. It's really, really hard. You and I are the same way. We both really, really focus on our niche specialization, which is working with buyers and sellers regarding short-term rental properties, investment properties, whether it's single-family homes, multifamily, manufactured homes, condos, townhomes.
Fix and flip.
Yeah, fixed and flip. So we're doing this stuff for investors. And, if clients want to live in a property, we typically refer that out. We don't do a lot of that business, or another member of the team will work with that, something like that. But yeah, we really work with these investors, and I don't manage my own properties either. So, property manager, she takes care of that. The other thing I wanted to just add on to what you said is that a really good short-term rental property manager, they're not going to just sit on their computer and work, and they're not going to just go out to these properties and work. They're going to also be regularly going to short-term rental seminars. They're going to be constantly educating themselves, reading, audiobooks, whatever. They're going to be constantly researching online, but they're going to be going to these events, learning from others, learning from cutting-edge speakers that are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, to research the data and really understand what's happening now, not what happened last year, not what's the old data, not what are projections based on trends, because that kind of stuff is not all that accurate. I mean, it's a guide, but so our property manager, for example, she's constantly traveling around, going to these seminars and constantly learning. And then what she learns from that, she comes back to her computer and then she gets to work, and then she applies those things that she learned so that she can tweak all the listings, so that she can tweak physically the properties, get the best outcome possible, and really increase those occupancy rates. And of course, we're constantly consulting with her and other sources as well, so that we're cutting edge too, so we can share some of that data. Some, a lot of that is pretty secretive, but we can share a lot of that data that we do have with our clients that want to self-manage, to try and give them every advantage possible so that they can have high occupancy rates too. But yeah, there are obviously a lot of advantages of using an expert, a short-term rental property management expert, or at least consult with them. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that I've opened up recently to a few clients is, if there are people that do want to self-manage, I arrange it so that they can consult with our person, and they can ask the tough questions and they can get real answers. And it's been really helping those clients to hit the ground running. And of course, we do other things on the transaction and property side to help them hit the ground running as well. So meaning, start renting as soon as humanly possible. Sometimes what we're seeing, of course, is properties that are totally ready to go. They're turnkey, and maybe they need either nothing, or they need a couple things that can be added while it's being rented, like a hot tub, for example. You can add that while it's being rented. So some of these properties are already short-term rentals while they're on the sale market, and then they close escrow, and there's already short-term rental income for the next 2 months. I just closed on 2 of them that had solid bookings for 2 months after close of escrow. And all of that booking money went straight to my clients after close. They're the buyers, and now they've got, 10,000 one month and, 15,000 the next month or whatever coming in on the income. It's incredible.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool thing.
Turnkey business.
Yeah, it's a quirky thing we do. It's really fun though. So Martin, one thing I'd love to just finish on, of course, we have lots and lots of these recordings where we talk about different features and what's working best for these short-term rentals, and what do you need, what do you not need, what's nice to have, all of those kind of things. What's your top 3 list? And then I'll give mine as well. But what's your top 3 list of things that here in this area, whether it's Sedona or Cottonwood, 2 really strong short-term rental markets, what would you say are 3 things that clients really should have? There's no such thing as what we have to have, but what do you say the 3 things that we should have in order to perform the best?
Yeah, it's it's interesting to say that, because it's come to the point where it is now a necessity, because everybody's doing it. and if you don't have it, it almost looks strange. Like, oh, why does this Airbnb doesn't have a hot tub? Hot tub is the number 1 thing you need, and it's cheap. Having it delivered, installed, the permit, the new electrical upgrade, the pavers, whatever it is, it's going to be $10,000 to $15,000. It's really not that much of an investment, but it makes a huge difference on your returns. And now most Airbnbs have it, so you have to have it. You cannot not have it. Your property will rent more because you have a hot tub, even if your guests don't use the hot tub, which is it's interesting. It's really interesting this way. We are blessed with beautiful weather year round. So there are a lot of occasions where you would want to use the hot tub, and it's nice to have that, outside in a cozy private area in the back of your house, at the end of a long hike, and kind of rest with the jets in the hot water. It's amazing. So that, I would say, is number 1. Number 2, if you can afford it, or if you have the space for it, the new thing that's coming on the map is the pool. Historically, we haven't had many pools over here, but now that we've become such a popular tourist destination and our weather is really warm half of the year, the pool makes a huge difference. It's kind of like, for the identical property that has the space and the money for it, between whether or not you have a pool, it can be a 20% difference in returns. So what we like to say with Chad is, generally, a pool is about $100,000 to put in, but you'll make that back in 1.5 to 2 years. So, that's that's a 50 to 75% return on investment. So that's really, really incredible. And then, you know, the third one, people really like having some activities on site. And, you know, we're very quiet region. People come here to enjoy the outdoors. They come here to enjoy the trails. They come here for the health benefits. They come here, you know, for the spiritual activities. But when they come home, it's nice to have some things to do at home. So what we do a lot is we don't convert the garage into a living space, but we make the garage cozier, and we have some games inside the garage. So they're not necessarily going to be outside and distracting the neighbors and the neighborhood, but they're going to be inside. They're going to be cozy. You know, maybe we have a game of pool. You know, maybe we have the foosball, a really nice like theater and couch to enjoy a movie. And that generally will make a difference between whether your property is booked just 2 or 3 nights because people are passing through, or your property is booked like a week at a time, right? Because if you have a family traveling and they're like, well, we really like Sedona and look at this house, these are all the things we can do in the house, plus all the things we can do in Sedona, let's just stay a week. Because now we're going to be busy all the time. So I would say these are the top 3 for me.
Nice. Those are really good. And one thing I want to clarify before I give mine is that with the pool thing, you're right. And, you know, in some cases you get back, you know, even at $100,000 cost, you're getting back that just in the difference of having that or not having that in gross cash flow, you know, in like a year and a half, you know, 2 years, something like that. Of course, it depends on the property. So it's always going to be hugely beneficial because pools just rock and roll, and they do so well. They're so photogenic. They market beautifully, and they really increase occupancy rate and ADR, which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
There are some cases where, let's say you start with a $300,000 property, and then you put in a $100,000 pool, and you're not going to get that back because the property doesn't support that.
Warrant that.
And maybe that's a better example, you know, that you take a less expensive property, and maybe a swim spa instead, or maybe just a hot tub, you know, in that case. But certainly in Sedona, with single family homes where everything is starting typically at about 700,000 or 800,000 and going up. I mean, there's some exceptions to that, but that's pretty much it. Sedona is a pretty safe bet, you know, to put in the pools. They perform the best when you're starting more like 1.3, 1.5 million plus. Then those pools really, really kick butt. And that's where you really see the big boost to, you know, that you're already, a lot of those properties, you're already at $800 or $1,000 a night. And then you add a pool and maybe it brings you up to 13, 15, 1,800 a night, depending upon the pool and in the whole bit. So I recently sold a property, and it was a short-term rental. It had great occupancy, and the sellers weren't selling for any other reason or for any reason that had anything to do with its performance. It was a different reason. But it had a beautiful pool in the back. It had really nice tile around the pool. It almost felt like, it looked like a resort style pool. They spent a little bit more on it. And, you know, my theory, knowing the property as well as I do, is that the high occupancy, it really came from that pool. And without that pool, if it just had a hot tub, it would do okay, but it probably would have been the difference between 70% occupancy and 90% occupancy, which is about where they were. So I agree, makes a huge difference. Now, I'm going to cheat on my top 3 because you went first. So your 3 were great. They were absolutely great. And I'm going to parrot one of them, which is, you know, the hot tub is really critical. And oftentimes it's neglected. It's especially critical for the winter months. It's crazy, but almost all of our clients' properties with hot tubs this winter were almost entirely booked up November, December, January, and February. And February last year was an incredibly profitable month for most of my clients. February was like a banner month. So almost like it was just like stacked with holidays. I mean, it was crazy. And in the past, that wasn't the case. February was an off month, and things didn't warm up till March, the whole bit. And of course, we got spring break during March, and that really helps. But February, if you have a hot tub, you know, that's really, really good. This, you know, next month is February, and we're already seeing really high occupancy rates with high ADRs, you know, again, with these hot tubs. So that's my parroting is the hot tub thing. Obviously, I totally agree with everything else you said too. The pool thing, gosh, they're so expensive, but it's so important. If you want to have an edge in this business, you want to have an advantage over your competition, have a hot tub and a pool. You will have that edge, and you're going to sleep a lot better at night, and you're going to see that. So the other two things that I just wanted to share, one is properties that are really photogenic. And I can't emphasize this enough, you know, and this comes way circling back to what we were talking about before. You know, these really thoughtful, really smart investors, they're coming in and they're bargain shopping, right? So at first they're like, oh, well, yeah, we've got to keep it under here, under this price. And you know, what's wrong with these properties, Chad? What's wrong with these properties, Martin? And then we tell them, you know, that, okay, well, this property looks like all the other properties. It's really common. It's kind of boring. You know, we're pretty direct. So it's pretty common. It's pretty boring. And the problem is it's going to photograph like all the other ones too. Even if you bring in the best photographer in the world, you know, the property is what the property is. So you need something that has some features that kind of stand out, give it some good personality, not bad personality, but good personality, some character, something that has a beautiful look to it. You don't have to buy, you know, a $20 million property to accomplish that. So if it's in Cottonwood, you know, you're probably going to be looking at about $600,000, $700,000, maybe $800,000 to find something that has a really nice look to it, that's going to photograph extremely well. And in Sedona, you're probably going to be looking at something that's 1.3 to 2 million. And if you can go above 2 million, awesome. Let us know, because there are some great opportunities above 2 million as well. Not many, but there are some that would have excellent ROIs. So that's something that's really, really critical. The other thing is the number of bedrooms. So, you know, I mean, you can make good money with a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, which is the most common. If it's done right, if it's the right property, if it's approached right, if it's marketed right, you could do well. But where you're going to have the best return, the best ROI is going to be where you start hitting 4, 5, 6 bedrooms, sometimes even more. There was a property that there's a property that has 8 bedrooms in Sedona that I'm aware of, and it's crushing it. The returns are insane, and it's because they're not tiny little rooms. You know, it's spacious rooms. It has lots of these bedrooms, and they've done a really great job with the property so that it feels like a nice, like you're coming full circle to what you were saying earlier, Martin, feels like a getaway, feels like a nice retreat. So it gives that experience. So yeah, number of bedrooms, it really does help. There aren't a lot of properties, but there are a lot of tricks that you and I know about, especially in the village of Oak Creek Canyon, Lower Red Rock Loop Road areas, some areas like that. There are certain tricks to being able to legally get permitted expansions of these homes on a budget, and where you can add bedrooms and it can look really nice. So we're doing that for a lot of our clients, and they're really getting great returns when we do that. Yeah. So is there anything else?
The groups, people love traveling in group, especially in Sedona. You know, there's a, you know, girls out weekend, you know, family weekend, different couples of friends weekend. We have so many seminars and conferences and concerts and, you know, spiritual events over here. These are events that attract people from the entire country and sometimes even the world. And, you know, whether you're traveling, if you're traveling a group of 10 together and you're able to rent one property for all 10 people, is going to make a huge cost saving on your travel budget. And that's where you get to capitalize as an investor offering a property for these groups that are very numerous. And if you have an attractive property with 4 or more bedrooms and you have 8, 10, 12 people that can stay in your house, yeah, they would rather rent one property than 2 or 3 properties. So huge difference.
Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope this has been helpful for you. We sure love what we do, and we love, helping our clients just rock and roll out there and make a ton of money. And our goal is always every property that our clients purchase through us, that it's going to be their flagship. It's going to be the foundation for their investment portfolio, and we strive really hard for that to be the case. So reach out anytime, either of us, anytime we can answer questions. We're happy to consult. We do that often. Beyond that, everyone, good luck out there. Make a lot of money and treat each other right. All right, take care.
Have a good one.
Thanks for tuning in to the Equity Team Podcast. To speak with one of our top agents, visit us at owninaz.com. That's owninaz.com. Or call us at 928-323-0031.